Welcome everybody to look at a new Radiance Films release, and it is a new box set with 3 films in it, and it is titled Hardboiled. So this is 3 films, 3 pulp thrillers by Alain Corneau. Hope I'm saying his name right, but I'm not the best at pronouncing names regardless of where the person is from. And yeah, all 3 of these films are ostensibly crime films, but the first one in particular does have some thriller elements to it. And yeah, it's really been exciting going through these 3 films because I hadn't seen them before. In fact, I've not seen anything from the director before either. Um, but yeah, 2 of these have become my favourites of this year, nearly enough. So yeah, the first film is from 1976 and is Police Python 357. So this clocks in at 126 minutes long. Stars Yves Montand, who is also in The Wages of Fear, Le Cercle Rouge, and Grand Prix. Also stars Francois Perrier, who is also in Le Cercle Rouge, as well as Le Samurai. And finally, Simone Signoret, who is also in Army of Shadows and The Deadly Affair. Well, she was also the wife of Yves Montand as well at the time of this filming of this film. So yeah, Thoreau is a tough but honest cop who is attracted to a beautiful woman named Sylvia. Sylvia, however, is having an affair with Gane, who happens to be Thoreau's superior on the force. Sylvia is found murdered, and Thoreau is assigned to investigate. He discovers, though, that there are a number of false clues due to his interactions with Sylvia that point the blame towards himself. So, yeah, he's basically therefore trying to not only, you know, not make him become the suspect, but also try and find the murderer at the same time. So he's trying to juggle both elements really rather at the same time. So this is the second of 3 film adaptations of Kenneth Fearing's 1946 novel The Big Clock, with the other 2 being 1948's The Big Clock, which had Ray Milland in it, and 1987's No Way Out, which had Kevin Costner in it. And this is, quite frankly, the best of the 3. I do really rather enjoy The Big Clock. That actually got a release by Arrow Video a number of years ago. Um, don't own No Way Out, but both of them are fairly solid, although The Big Clock is the better of the 2. But this is better than both of those as well. So yeah, and this is thanks to the film using the main aspect of the plot from the first film adaptation, but stripping it back to be less complex, but in a positive manner, while updating it to a gritty 70s aesthetic that is made utterly engrossing thanks to Yves Montand in the lead role. So yeah, in the 1948 version, there was a little bit more of another, like say, a henchman or a co-conspirator for the person that actually did murder the woman in the film. This doesn't have that. It's much more about our lead, him trying to absolve himself of the crime while also trying to find the murderer at the same time. You do quickly find out who the murderer is because you see the murder actually take place. I'm not actually going to spoil that element for you, but you do see the murder happen, so you already know who the murderer is. The great joy of this film is seeing our lead not only trying to find out who the murderer is, but also trying to absolve himself at the same time. And yeah, the balance of that is really effective. The supporting cast is also great. The romance aspect is convincing. The way the plot is structured creates effective tension between the 2 men implicated in the murder, uh, but neither of them knowing of how involved either of them is, because the murderer also is trying to, find out who the other person is, because he sees a light come on after he's killed the woman, Sylvia, um, and therefore he knows that someone else knows that a murder has occurred. And yeah, the pacing is also on point. The cinematography is excellent. The score is well done, and the final act has a superb action scene with a really rather good death that is also effective at concluding the plot in a manner I really wasn't expecting. I was anticipating it going in one direction, which would have been probably a little bit darker, but it went in another direction, which I think was probably the right way to go about it. So yeah, this is a 5 out of 5 film from me. My favourite film that I've seen so far this year that was released before 2025. And even if we do include 2025 films, it would be better than all of them as well. So, yeah, an absolute joy to watch this film. And yeah, highly, highly recommend this film alone as far as this box set goes. Never mind the following 2. So the second film is Série Noire, which came out in 1979, so 3 years after the first one. Clocks in at 116 minutes long. Unfortunately, I've not seen anything from the main cast before, but I definitely will be checking out the lead actor at some point because I was impressed by him. So Frank Papa is a slightly neurotic door-to-door salesman in a sinister part of the Paris suburbs. He meets Mona, a teenager who's been made a prostitute by her own aunt. Frank would like to change his life and also save Mona from her aunt, but it quickly becomes apparent that murder is the only way out of this for the both of them. So I didn't find this to be as excellent as the prior film, but despite that, this is still really rather effective due to the direction of Alain Corneau, as and the superbly performance from Patrick Dewar, who unfortunately died really rather quite early on in his life due to suicide, which is really unfortunate because he puts in an absolutely stellar performance in this. He really does make this film better. A lesser actor wouldn't have made this anywhere near as good. The supporting cast is also good though. The pacing is mostly on point. It is well shot, generally engrossing, and though our lead character is hardly likable, there are some aspects to him that are impactful, and yeah, I'm sure there will be some aspects to him that are relatable as well. You know, having little control over your life, for instance, being unfulfilled in your job, not having much of a romantic life, and such like that. I feel like some people would probably get something out of that, but yeah, coming off of the watching the first film, it does feel a lesser film. Maybe in in time when I watch it outside of this box set, watch it outside of the first and third films, it might well prove to be a little bit more impactful, but it still gets a solid 4 out of 5 from me. So yeah, still overall a really, really, really good film, and another one that I highly recommend. So yeah, and then we get to the third and final film, which I have to pull the slip cover out of because obviously we can't have 3 films on one side. So there's the first two, and here's the third film, 1981's Choice of Arms. So yeah, clocks in at 136 minutes long. Stars Catherine Deneuve, who was also in Un Flick, also known as A Cop. Also as Missy, she was in Mississippi Mermaid, which is another Radiance film released last year, I think that was, and yeah, also in March or Die with Gene Hackman. So a former crook is pulled out of retirement when a gang on the run turn to him for shelter after a prison break. Far more complex than that, but again, like with the previous film, I don't want to give, or the first film, I don't want to give too much away because the great joy of this film is slowly seeing the plot unravel. So yeah, but although Police Python 357 is my favourite of the films in this set, this is practically as good as that effort, thanks to once again another superb performance from Yves Montand. The supporting cast is also really good, although I would say Catherine Deneuve is could have had a bit more of a presence in this film, as she does seem to be relegated to a hotel room for a large portion of this film. Um, but that said, the plot is highly engaging, and the cinematography is also excellent. The pacing is once again on point. The gradually unfolding plot builds up the tension really rather effectively. The score is great, and the action scenes are solidly done. Yeah, there is more action in this one in the previous two, um, but it's more spread out, and with it being a much longer film than the previous two, yeah, it does feel not quite as impactful given how far apart they are. But still, again, another 5 out of 5. Slightly below Police Python, but still a 5 out of 5 film. So yeah, and all 3 films get a disc of their own, in that really nice looking yellow, and we get a hard box as well. Now this shot is from the first film, Police Python 357. So yeah, well, these are numbers 97, 98, and 99 in the Radiance Films collection, and then we get the reverse as well. I think these shots are from the third film, Choice of Arms. So yeah, that's cool. And we also get a really rather nice thick booklet, which again follows on with the yellow and black theme, which again is nice to see. So inside we get your cast and your crew for each film. Then we get an interview with Alain Corneau from 1995 by David Herring. Then we get Sierra Noire, the hard-boiled pulp imprint that changed French culture from 2025 by Andrew Mail. Then we get Permafrost Pulp, the Ouroboros Noire of Alain Corneau from 2025 by Travis Woods. Then we get Police Python 357 and the music of Georges Delarue from 2025 by Charlie Bridgen. Then we got Problem Policia, Choice of Arms and Alain Corneau's Banlieue Noirs from 2025 by Nick Pinkerton. Then we get a tribute to Patrick Dewar from 1986 by Alain Corneau. And then we get transfer notes and credits. So sorry if I butchered any names there, which I know that I have done long before. So there's Yves Montand in the first film. There's, what's his name again? I do apologise for forgetting. Patrick Dewar in Sierra Nori. And yeah, there are more pictures and such, but again, I don't want to give too much away in terms of the films. So yeah, all of these were supplied to Radiance as high resolution digital files. So doesn't look like they've done any work on them, and it doesn't say who has supplied the high resolution files. I imagine it might well be Studio Canal. I do seem to remember them being at the beginning of the film. When it does all the production companies at the beginning of a film, I do seem to remember it being them. Might say some more here. No, it doesn't. So yeah, we've got uncompressed mono PCM audio for each film, as well as new and improved English subtitles for each film, because obviously these are all in French. Then for Police Python 357, we have audio commentary by Mike White from 2024, as well as Maxim Jakubowski on Police Python 357 source novel and adaptation even from 2024, clocking at 15 minutes long, as well as an archival interview with Alain Corneau and Francois Perrier from Belgian television, clocking in at 5 minutes long, and that's from 1976. And then for Série Nori, we got interviews with Alain Corneau, Patrick Dewar, and Miriam Boyer from Belgian television from 1981, clocking in at 11 minutes long. Then we have Sierra Nori, The Darkness of the Soul, an archival documentary featuring cast and crew on the making of the film from 2013. That clocks in at 53 minutes long. Then we've got archival interview with Alain Corneau and Maury Trintignant. Sorry again. From 2002, clocking at 29 minutes long. She plays the character of Mona alongside Patrick Dewar. And then we've got A Hollyhock in a Cornfield, a visual essay about Jim Thompson adaptations for the screen by Paul Martinovich from 2024, clocking in at 30 minutes long, as well as a trailer for that one. And then for Choice of Arms, we've got shooting Choice of Arms interviews with the cast and crew, including behind the scenes footage from 1981, clocking in at 22 minutes long. Then we've got an interviews with Denevu, Montand, and Depardieu from the set also from 1981, clocking at 18 minutes long. Then we got an interview with Manuela Lazic and on Yves Montand in the 1970s from 2024, clocking at 24 minutes long. And then an introduction by documentary filmmaker Jerome Wybon from 2024, clocking at 3 minutes long, as well again as a trailer. So yeah, no trailer for the first film, but the other two do have a trailer. So yeah, overall an excellent box set. This is probably my favorite box set that Radiance films have released so far. I'm looking at the other ones, and there have been really rather good ones that they've released, like the Cosa Nostra box set, both of the first two World Noir box sets, which we have a third one coming out later this year. The End of Civilization box set and the Die Gothic ones, both of them were also great, but two 5-star films and a 4-star film are hard to ignore at the end of the day. And yeah, it's not the biggest of box sets. They have released box sets in the past that have had each film on their own individual disc, but I like its compact nature. A lot of the times nowadays, box sets do take up way too much room. So to have a box set that is as skinny as this and still having 3 great films in it is a joy. And yeah, really nicely done box set regardless in terms of its physical aspects. The presentations all look great. I have no real issues in terms of sound or picture quality. Yes, it would have been nice to have some work done on them, but for the most part, they do look yeah, pretty great, and there's no real issues with them in terms of watching them. Looking at the back of this now, it does say Studio Canal, so I do believe they've provided the digital files, but whether or not they do something with these in the future, I don't know. There is also regions on these A and B, so if you are in America, for instance, you could watch this if you imported it into the States. So yeah, it's nice to see that it's not completely region locked us to region B over here in the UK and the likes of Australia. So yeah, highly recommend this box set if you haven't got it already. Yeah, it's absolutely superb, and for a director that I've not seen anything from before, I'm really surprised by how quickly I got into his films. And yeah, the first film had this weird sensation of like a bit of familiarity, but not in a predictable or a boring kind of way. Obviously, after I'd watched it, I realised, yes, I have seen this kind of plot before with the big clock and No Way Out, but it genuinely didn't feel like a remake or another adaptation of something I've seen before because it's just that good in so many other areas. So yeah, but if you have seen either of these films, I'd like to hear your thoughts on them. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.